Today I'm going to show you what I feel like should be the go-to settings when you're shooting underwater with your GoPro Hero 11. We're going to go through some test footage, and I also wanted to share with you a really cool hack that I feel like really helps when you're taking these things underwater. But I don't want to waste too much more of your time talking, so let's jump right into it. Before we get started, you're going to want to make sure that your controls are set on Pro. To do this, you simply swipe down from the top of the screen, swipe to the right, drill into the controls menu, and you'll see the two options, Easy and Pro. You want to make sure that it's set on Pro, and now we're ready to get started. Now, a lot of you might want to be shooting in 5.3K at 60 frames a second, which is absolutely fine. Shooting high res like that gives you a lot of freedom to punch in on the image without losing resolution. However, I'm going to be shooting at 4K 60, that way it doesn't eat up so much space on my SD card or use up so much of my battery. Now, as far as lens is concerned, I find wide to be the most useful. It's wide enough to convey the setting that you're in, but it doesn't have a whole lot of distortion, which is pretty important when people happen to be in frame. Now, the Hero 11 has a new Hyper Smooth feature called Auto Boost, which is only going to crop in to stabilize if there's any sort of shake or movement in the camera, so we're going to go ahead and set it on that. Now, the rest of the features on this page I pretty much keep turned off, and that's going to include schedule capture, duration, hindsight, and timer. So now we're going to move on down to Pro Tune, which brings us to 10-bit color. If you're not doing any sort of specialized color grading in post, especially color grading that involves pushing individual colors, I would leave this feature off and set your bitrate to standard. Doing so will not only preserve your battery, but it'll also save space on your SD card. However, if you are doing this sort of color grading in post, I hear the difference is huge, so I'm going to leave these settings on. And because I don't use ND filters or anything like that, I'm going to set the shutter speed to auto. Now, as far as EV comp is concerned, I set mine to -1 because there's something about GoPro's algorithm that causes the image to be overexposed in a lot of cases. A lot of people like -0.5. However, on a bright and sunny day, I feel like that's still not enough, so I'm going to set mine to -1. I'm going to keep my white balance at auto, and the minimum ISO is always going to be set to 100. Now I want to talk about max ISO because this clip was shot in a pretty dark and murky lake, and for some of us, those are going to be pretty normal conditions, and in that case, I would recommend to set your max ISO to 800. It's just going to be too dark otherwise. However, if you're diving in clear water, I would lower that to 400. I keep the sharpness on low because I could go back in post and add the sharpness as needed. Or if you're not doing a whole lot of editing, I would recommend just to keep it on medium. Now, you might have noticed that there's some new color profiles here on the Hero 11. There used to be just GoPro Color and Flat. Now it's flat, natural, and vibrant. And vibrant seems to be more equivalent to what GoPro Color was on the older models, and it does seem a little oversaturated, and when shooting underwater, it seems that there's always a green tint on the image. If you like, you can try shooting in flat to see how well you can bring the color back in post. However, I'm just going to leave mine in natural. If you want to do something specific with the audio file, keep it on high, otherwise I would keep it on medium, and turn the wind compensation off. And as you can see, my shortcuts are pretty standard. It's just what comes stock as you get the GoPro. Now that we went through the settings, let's talk about that useful hack that I mentioned in the intro. Let's say that you're set up for 4K 60, and on your dive, you come across something that you feel would be inspiring to shoot with slow motion. So of course, you're going to want to switch to the ultra slow motion mode. But remember, your GoPro's inside the housing and you don't have access to the touchscreen. So the solution here is simple. You simply press the side button, and almost immediately afterwards the top button. This is going to open up a menu that shows all of your different profiles, allowing you to cycle through them by pressing the side button. Once you decide which profile you want to switch to, you can select it by pressing the top button. So now that we've covered all of this, let's take a look at some test footage. So here we just covered what I feel like are the best settings for your GoPro Hero 11 while you're shooting underwater, and I also went through how you can change through different profiles on one single dive without having to take your GoPro out of the underwater housing. And I want to mix it up even more by showing you exactly what you can do to shoot macro video with your GoPro. That way you have that perspective to add into your sequence as well, and that's going to be on the next video, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that content. I can't wait to see you on the next dive. Thanks for watching.